And a call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Nancy, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bain.
Here.
Mr. Beavers.
Here.
Mrs. Dorr. Here. Mr. Green.
Here.
Mrs. James. Here. Mrs. Miller absent. Mr. Rungy.
Here. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Carrington, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item is the approval of the agenda, and I believe there might be a change.
Yeah, I'd like to move old business 5, building review process, up to number 2, so that it will be before all the other building discussions.
Any others?
No, sir.
All right, then we need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We need to approve the consent agenda, which is composed of District 186 regular board meeting minutes dated 9/25/18, District 186 budget hearing meeting minutes dated 9/25/18, Tri-County minutes dated September the 12th of 2018, Tri-County bills for October of 2018, applications and reports. And I will accept a motion to approve those.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We need to approve the District 186 bills for October of 2018. Are there any questions from the board? If so, please let the rest of the board know the page that you are on. Well, I'm not here. Okay, then I will accept a motion to approve the bills as presented. Nancy?
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Beavers.
Yes.
Mrs. Dorr. Yes. Mrs. James. Yes. Mrs. Miller absent. Mr. Bain.
Yes.
Mr. Rungy.
Yes, motion carries. Communications, do we have, I think we at least have one.
All right, at the last meeting, the board employed Adrian Chevalier and Patricia Villanueva, and neither one started working. So we would like a verbal resignation from these two.
The recommendations to approve the verbal resignation. We have new hires that we need to replace them, so.
All right. You've heard that recommendation for the administration. I'll accept the motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Boys good? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
This is written to Georgia Marshall. Please accept this as my letter of resignation. My last day will be Thursday, October 11th, 2018. Thank you for this opportunity to be part of an amazing job. Thank you, Georgia, for all you have done for the people under you. The unsung hero boss is one of a kind like you. I am truly going to miss working with you and all of those kids. Thank you again, Bobby Joe Wolin.
Recommendations to accept.
I'll accept a motion to approve that recommendation.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Don't all speak at once here tonight. We'll be here for a while. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
To the members of the Board of Education, a news release from the library at General John A. Logan Attendance Center. Check it out. I would like to inform you all of my decision to retire and accept the 5-for-5 retirement incentive. My exit date will be January 7th, 2019. I have enjoyed the years working in our school district and have made many lifelong friendships. My coworkers and the children have made my years of employment feel like family. I will deeply miss them all. Being a tool that inspires children to love to read has been an awesome career. I thank Murphysboro CUSD 186 for everything over the years. Sincerely, Janet Terry.
Recommendations to approve Ms. Terry's retirement.
I'll accept a motion to approve that recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We wish her well.
And that's all I have.
I have one. Dear Mr. Grody and Board of Education, please accept this as my letter of intent to retire from my position as District Secretary, as well as Secretary of the Board of Education. My last day of employment will be February 1, 2019. Many thanks to the administration, Board of Education for offering non-certified staff the early retirement incentive. This opportunity is allowing me more financial stability as well as extra years to spend with my family and friends. District 186 has been a blessing to me. I've worked with several superintendents and administrators during the last 22 years. My coworkers have been great and have been like family to me. I've learned so much through the years and I'm fortunate to have worked in a place that I truly loved and enjoyed. While it is difficult to believe I've reached this point in my life, I welcome it with thankfulness and gratitude. Special thanks to former and present board members. You've made me feel welcome and have been so understanding of me, especially during those times when I didn't know what I was doing. We hopefully learn and grow from our experiences, both good and bad. I have witnessed board members working together to make the appropriate decisions best suited for District 186. Many of the board's decisions are not made easily and are often misunderstood. My thanks to each of you for working through difficult times while holding on to your beliefs to support staff, students, and community. I wish you and future boards the best and trust that discussions, decisions, and support of one another are for the betterment of District 186. Thanks again to all who made my position at 186 a great place in which to work. Most sincerely, Nancy Ward. And reluctantly and regretfully, I recommend we allow her to retire.
Well, reluctantly, and having been on this board for 12 years and sitting in this chair for 2, it's amazing what she does, and especially keeping presidents, and I think Kevin may also agree with that, on the right track, and so I will reluctantly make that motion. And I need a second.
Thank you. We need a vote.
Well, I'm still pondering here. All in favor? Opposed? And,
Thank you.
you will be greatly, greatly missed.
I've enjoyed it.
Okay. February what?
February 1st.
Okay, is that it?
And have what, three board meetings in January
I think she's
We've had
expecting.
3 midnighters in January?
You were here for the 2 o'clock in the morning, weren't you?
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought you were. Okay, that's it for communications. Fishbowl, I think we had several. Let's start on my right. You first, Mrs. Newman. Okay.
3 Murphysboro teachers were among the presenters at the recent ROE Annual Teachers Institute, where they shared their expertise in classroom management, teaching and assessment tools, and trauma-sensitive teaching methods with teachers from every school in Jackson, Perry, Alexander, Pulaski, and Union counties. The teachers that presented this year included James Wells, Tabitha Harris, William Moore, and Stacy Taft. These teachers helped represent Unit 186 as a district filled with not only top-notch teachers, but leaders in their fields and innovators in the classroom. And that was from Melinda Pearson.
Good.
Mr. Navarro says congrats to the Red Devils boys soccer team. Saturday, the team won the IHSA Regional Championship at Freeburg by a score of 1-0. Very impressive, and it was his 3rd year?
3rd year, yes, sir.
3rd year to win regionals, that's pretty good.
Cool.
The District 186 Education Foundation Distinguished Alumni Induction Ceremony was held this past Saturday. The 4 inductees were Dr. Charles Bud Poplar, Dr. Karen Rozzaglia, Mr. Bob Chambers, and Dr. Derek McDowell. Kay Bozarth also received a special recognition for her years of volunteerism to help with the students in District 186. A special thank you to James Wells and his Key Club workers. The students had the responsibility of serving dinner to over 100 guests. They were very professional and personable as they waited on tables. They took their responsibility seriously and were an example of the quality of students District 186 is fortunate to have. It is hoped that their continued interaction with the community will spark a mutual partnership and support for all. In addition, a special thanks goes to Mr. Wells for his photography talents. He so happened to have had his camera that evening, and we immediately put him to work taking pictures of our inductees. He stepped up without hesitation and did whatever he could to help. Thank you, Mr. Wells.
Very good. Is that it? Mrs. James, do you have one? Okay. All right, next item of business is a Freedom of Information Act request.
There were none.
None. Good. Item 10 is the recognition of the audience. The Board of Education welcomes the audience to make public or employee comments. The board has set aside time in the agenda specifically for this purpose. Pursuant to Board Policy 2.230, each speaker shall be limited to a 5-minute presentation. Please be aware that while this is the time for the public to express its opinions and/or concerns, the board may or may not comment regarding public presentations. If a matter of public comment warrants the discussion or action of the Board of Education, such discussion or action will be added to the agenda of a future meeting. Are there any public concerns first? How about employee concerns? We're just one big happy family tonight. All right, thank you. All right, old business. First item under old business, the district financial update. Mr. Grody.
Yeah, and money is still coming in. Everything's going according to plan. In fact, we were discussing whether or not we still needed this on the agenda. I think what we're gonna do is wait till after the election and see. There should be the couple next months after the election, we should have some gossips and some rumors as to what's gonna happen now that we've been through the election. So I don't have anything new to report on the financial update.
Any questions from the board? All right. Thank you. The next item is the building review process.
Yeah, and this is kind of a big picture. What I'm passing out are, last year or the year before, I went around to every building and I took a list of things that they wanted to see fixed. I then put it into an Excel spreadsheet. If everybody would take one and pass them down, you're gonna have the list of what they're doing. Thinking about how to make sure that we don't skip anything and we look at everything and we ensure that we're planning this accordingly. At the next faculty forums that I have at each building, I'm gonna share the list that I've got with the faculty, and I'm gonna give them a month to kind of review it and get back to me the following month and make updates to it. That would be around November, right? Because October is when I've got 2 faculty forums this week and next week. After that, I'd like to get with the PTOs and meet with the parents and maybe have a discussion with them about the buildings and the needs and what they'd like to see. I think then what we need to have is a community forum where we invite the aldermen, we invite other city officials, we invite as many people as we can, and we talk about the buildings, talk about all of the aspects, and we have them kind of at tables doing a working group. Listing pros, cons, ideas here, ideas there. What needs to happen then is we need to have a board meeting to present the findings from that large strategic planning session, for lack of a better word. I took Mr. Boehm around to the buildings, what was it, yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, and he made a comment that they looked better than he was expecting them to. There are a lot of little things that need to be done. We talked about like the high school needs paint, the general needs paint. Our newest building's 20 years old, so they're starting to show their age. But as we were walking through, we were talking about the cooling tower at the general, big ticket items versus those easier to fix things. And when I say easier to fix things, some of them might be $100,000. If you're going to take out all the tile in the commons area and put down a new floor at the high school, something that doesn't need to be waxed, something that is a little more attractive. It'd be an abatement. It'll be an expensive project, but it's not like $1 million bonding issue. So with that said, really I'm looking at like maybe a February board meeting where we do the discussions of the strategic plan that we had. That works out well talking with Jan, because if we're gonna be selling bonds for the projects that we're doing in over the summer, to get the money in July, you really need 3 months going up to that. So the bond process we'll need to do in April, May, and June. Does that make sense? That would then get us the money in July. Talking with Jan, we really wanted to make sure that we're not, as we're doing these projects that we're gonna talk about today, our goal is to make sure that we're not spending all of the money in one place and we don't have money to spend elsewhere. So with that, we currently have a bond issue out. We're looking at doing another bond issues for these big payments. And tomorrow, Jan and I at 1:15 are going over to Egyptian Electric to discuss with Brooke Guthman. They've got a person coming down from some other place in their corporate. And we're gonna look at a $2 million interest-free loan from them. So you look at the $2 million as a bond, but what's nice about that one is we schedule out the payments and there's no interest added on to those $2 million. So when you look at that and you think about our current bond interest, our future bond is interest for the projects that we're talking about tonight. We talked about $350,000 payment every year, which would be which would cover the $2 million bond payment and $150,000 of miscellaneous things every year. Okay, so you've got $150,000 miscellaneous, $2 million from the Egyptian loan. If we maximize our bonding for these projects that we're talking about now, we abate every year and we pay off the other ones. She's got the cash flow, and we'll be able to do a lot more projects. Within 4 or 5 years, we can do another bond interest. So I firmly believe that if we, looking at these jobs and start breaking out the little things, we can get a lot more done in the district while still doing the payments. Do you wanna pass out the cash flow for them?
I have a couple things, and the first is just the pink and the green. The green is the current bond issue that we have with Stiefel. The pink is a future bond issue to cover the cost of the projects. And this is just county facility tax, and if you want to pass that too. Just a sales tax, cash flow, looking at.
Within our assumption too in the cash flow, I don't know if I said it, but we talked about the full abatement.
Right, and that's just an assumption on our part. I realize that that's not something that's been approved by the board at this time. But I kind of set this cash flow up to look at as a worst case scenario, assuming we do abate our old debt on the 2009 issue debt, which runs through the 21-22 school year, so we don't have that many years left on that. The 10-year bond payments on the 2017 alternate revenue bonds that we did last year, and then an estimated bond on these new projects. So played around with those numbers and looked at that, and basically at the end of this cycle, and we'd still have bonds out there because the middle school, high school projects that we're looking at are actually 20-year repayment bonds. Now with the Egyptian Electric money from there, assuming we have a little bit left over from the high school auditorium project, which we're hoping after the final change orders and the project is finished, we might look at actually having to bond a little bit less. So when you get to the end of this schedule, we still have several years left where the 1.2 million is going towards those, would be going towards this new bond issue if that gets approved. But we do still have some room. We took a look at that, the numbers that we got from Stiefel. And Stiefel's numbers, if you look at those, are a little bit confusing because they talk about the tax year, the fiscal year, and the, what was the other thing I lost? The EAV year. So we're kind of it's a year off. So when there's a negative number at the very top, we don't really have that. We didn't really abate that full amount, and we actually have those taxes. So the cash flow that I did, it's on the fiscal year. It's more realistic as far as these are the dollars we have coming in. This is anticipated what will be going out and what we will have at the end of each year to carry forward. So after looking at the debt schedule, feel a little bit better about some of the future projects that we're thinking about doing, and utilization of that county facility sales tax.
The one handout that she handed out from Stiefel, we will email it to you. The column that got cut off is excess county facility sales tax after abatement.
Oh, I didn't know it got cut off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what, that's the, I think what, oh, I gotcha.
And that shows,
Okay.
that shows, you know, 150 to 250, and then going on to 300,000 a year excess, that we would have, that would accumulate each year. But what it doesn't
That's
sh-
if we abate.
That's if we abate.
That's if we abate.
That's,
So
like
that's
I said, worst case scenario.
Or
And-
most conservative estimates.
And if we didn't, then that money rolls back in, stays in here, could be used for projects, you know. We'd have, maybe be able to pay some bonds off earlier, just, you know, whatever the pleasure of the board is.
There'll be choices.
Right.
And then if we do the reason we're sharing this now with and we moved up the building review process, if we can get the kind of the strategic plan and that all those meetings done by February, we've got March then to really explore it even more, and then April, May, and June, we'd still be able to give us our bonding for these projects that we're doing now, so. Questions, concerns, comments on any of that? It's
Do
sort
we
of
know, do we know what the repayment schedule will be for that $2 million to Egyptian Electric? Has that been discussed?
Well, what it would be is it's a 10-year repayment, and so you take $2 million, you divide it by
Okay.
10, and that's what you pay every year. So what you've got on this cash flow from Jan is $200,000 a year that goes toward the Egyptian payback and $150,000 in miscellaneous projects, which would be
Yeah.
your $350,000. And that still leaves a cash amount left over in case we have
Right.
an emergency project that needs to get done.
Like Mr. Grody said, lots of assumptions made here, just so we could kind of look at the possibilities. So, we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, because I really don't know a lot about the Egyptian Electric program. And I haven't been to their new facility, so kind of kill two birds with one stone.
Anything else?
Any other questions from the board on this part of it?
We vote on the abatement next month? November?
January is when we did it last year.
Last year we did it in January because we knew the exact amount that we had collected from the 2018 year. So we did it in January. It has to be done by February.
But you already know what this year's debt services amount.
And
Yeah.
really, for the purpose of tonight's
That's the-
meeting, we factored into the cash flow the fact that you guys would be abating, and if you don't, that just gives us more money to do on projects.
Yeah, that debt service amount, 481,606 would be the next amount that we'll be looking, to abate.
Does that make sense?
Other questions? Okay. Next item of business is the approval of the security system cameras.
We had 6 proposals that were given to us. The lowest bid, we did not get good feedback from one of its customers. The second lowest bid is actually the gentleman that we work with currently on our security cameras. This would be an upgrade. Mr. Keener, Mr. Carrington went to the Jackson High Rise to see it. And it also will allow them to be able to get the video on their phones and on their mobile devices. It's $151,000, and the recommendations to go forward with that. I've got Mr. Carrington here. Should you have any questions or concerns about specifics?
So that replaces everything we currently have and gives us just, how many more new?
I didn't count how many new.
Okay.
We end up with close to 250 total cameras, and now we're at about 175. And so it's significantly more cameras. A great deal of them are at the auditorium, the addition to the high school. That was already cabled by Burke Electric, knowing that we were gonna have to put cameras there, but we hadn't purchased those cameras. So this takes care of that piece. Replaces all the DVRs at all the schools. And any newer cameras that are about 18 months old or newer, we can reuse those, but all the rest of them are getting replaced.
All 4 building principals are on board with this.
They are,
Okay.
they can speak up.
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
This is inside and outside.
Quality was very good, I thought, compared to what we have. It was a huge upgrade. It's all we need, really. Recording center, the capability to look on your phone, which I don't know how much we'll need, is there, if we need to do that. We've added, 10, 15 in our building, I believe, which were needed. And so for middle school, I was very happy with that proposal. Plus, I think there's not a yearly cost.
That's correct. This proposal included 4 years of warranty, both hardware warranty as well as labor, where Dan was gonna come in and take care of all that for 4 years. We shouldn't have to pay him unless we wanna add additional cameras to the system.
And this is just video, or is there audio?
It's just video. There are some options to do audio, but we didn't price any of that out.
And the security, like if you can access it on your phone, how's that?
It's still by username, password type credentials, restricted out. Also is the option that the local police department can have direct access to it, so that we do not have to act as an intermediary for them. We would probably just create some kind of intergovernmental agreement, letting them know that they have direct access.
In an emergency, or?
Other questions from the board?
Is there, I mean, obviously electronics, tomorrow, there's something new out. What's the shelf life, or what are we thinking before we need to put more money into this type of thing?
Probably about 5 years. I mean, it's technology, so every 5 years, something's gotta go. That's why I really like the 4-year warranty piece on it.
Anyone else? Okay, then I will accept a motion to approve the recommendation on the security system.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Nancy?
Mr. Bain?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorr? Yes. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller absent. Mr. Beavers? Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. Next item is the middle school HVAC project. It's enclosure number 1.
And we've got Mr. Seifert here to answer a lot of those questions. We recommend the approval to move forward with the TCSE, the existing.
Technical Consulting Services Agreement.
Thank you, the Technical Consulting Services Agreement with Hearst Roche, so that they will then start building the plans and the bidding documents for the work on the middle school. We will then go out to bid, and you'll have another action item where you have to select the laborers.
We did include in your packet a copy of the 10-year health life safety survey that we're required to do with the State Board of Education. So this is, this project is, and I don't know why I didn't talk to you about this when we were talking about the project earlier, but this was a priority code B, which was 5 years. So we're really scheduled to do this in August of 19. By the time on the HVAC replacement, it'll really be 20 before it gets done, but I think they'll give us a leeway as long as we start on that project. But those are things that were cited in our health life safety survey, and we're working towards getting all those things completed.
So this amount that's in here, I mean, we kinda know that that's what it's gonna cost.
To the best of our ability right at this moment, yes.
We're hoping that the bids come in a lot lower.
We hope it comes in less than that, yes, of course.
So I thought at the last meeting though, we talked about having a plan for the middle school before we put more money into it.
That was brought up, but I said at that meeting that, you know, one of the assumptions I have is that we're not gonna be tearing down the middle school. And so even if we have anything that's done with it, if people are gonna be in that building, this HVAC needs to happen.
But they might not necessarily be district employees or students in that building though, right? Didn't you at one point
Correct.
say that you thought about turning it over to the city or something?
No, it would still be our, it would
still
still be our
maintain
building,
ownership.
but we would have it was, in my mind, there was a discussion of it possibly being a city center, like the park district could be in there and whatnot. But it would still be a school building. And park district, city, anybody, they're still gonna need HVAC that works, and the boilers are gonna have to continue to operate, so. Unless you're gonna raise the building, this work needs to get done.
What was the cost, the feasibility study of a new middle school?
don't remember off the top of my head, 15, 16 million, somewhere in
It
there.
But
wasn't-
that did not include 2 gyms, an auditorium, and a,
There's your basic
Yeah.
building, had 1 gymnasium, no auditorium.
Wasn't the same size at
No,
all.
the existing building's like 125,000 square feet, which is, to replace that's $25 million. The building we proposed was much
That's
less
not
than
the
that,
same
because you
building.
don't need all that space. Because there's a lot of space there that's not necessarily used.
and I don't wanna speak for the teachers, but I think that if they could get a brand-new building with an auditorium the size that we have, and 2 gymnasiums, and the cafeteria and whatnot, I mean, they'd love to have everybody would love to have a new building. But when you look at the plans and you're talking about a new middle school, unless you can get all those things, they wanna continue at the middle school currently, so.
Weren't there some things about accessibility to the art room and ACA things that I don't see those on here. Weren't there some other things that needed to be done?
There needs to be a lift into the art room, or we need to move art next year. And then the big gym. So yeah, there are some ADA things.
Yeah, mainly what you see is the health, life, safety stuff. The heating and ventilation.
You're talking about the list that I gave you just recently, or you're talking about the health, life, safety? The former you are.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
About the access, yeah, but I didn't see that on here, so that wasn't 10 years ago. But
Yeah. Well, we
wouldn't that
can't-
also need to be put in here, or
We
no?
can't put ADA stuff in the health, life, safety, it's not.
Okay, so, but
Health, life,
that wouldn't
safety
have to,
will
wouldn't
not
that have to
pay-
be done? Though,
Yes.
too?
You know, this project is the heating and air. We've got to take all the ceilings down to do the heating and air, so we've got to put all new ceilings back, new lighting, which is part of the health, life, safety amendment. There's a new electric service, new electric panels in the boiler room. We have replaced 2 of the boilers already. That was phase 1. We did that 2 summers ago, maybe 3 summers ago, as a result of the health, life, safety. There's rooftop equipment that gets replaced. I'm trying to think what else there is in that.
So when you say new ceilings,
We're talking new ceilings.
so one of the
Classroom.
wish list items said soundproofing of the ceilings and floors, so these would be soundproofed ceilings? Does this,
We would have to discuss whether or not we're gonna add that. That'd probably be a
Right.
cost.
Right.
so that's not included in this one?
No. That's another one of those items health, life, safety doesn't pay for, is soundproofing.
So do you?
But you're very right. What happens when you do a project like that is you start going through this list and you start thinking what other things can we roll into those projects.
I guess my thing is, so if you did, health, life, safety, you'll pay for regular panels,
Correct.
but they won't pay for soundproof.
Correct.
But will we get the money for regular panels and we pay the difference for soundproof?
Pretty much, that's the way it
Okay,
works.
I just wanna make sure you don't get cut all the
Yeah.
funding if you upgrade.
No, absolutely not. Well, you can't pay for air conditioning with health, life, safety if you don't have it. So for instance, the gymnasium, we're gonna replace the air handler for the gymnasium, but you slide in the AC component to it. It's a minuscule cost in comparison, and they pay for almost everything except for the AC. Same thing in the classrooms, we're getting AC, but we're replacing with a system that's cheaper than what you've got now to run, install, so costs are gonna offset, so.
Mr. Keener, being your building, what are your thoughts?
Well, remember, Mr. Keener's not gonna be here 2 more years.
So you can speak bluntly and honestly then.
Does Mr. Keeter know any other way?
Exactly.
And I know Mr. Seifert knows his business, but when he says a lot of the space in that building isn't used, a lot of the space in the building is used. We have every classroom filled. There is a garage that the custodians use that's basically wall to wall. There's another garage on the west end that I haven't been in for a while that's used for maintenance storage of some kind. There's another building across the way, that's the old bus garage that we have tractors stored in, which I guess those would still be there, the desks for the building are still are stored in there. Every classroom is filled. If you were ever going to do anything, losing that auditorium for the middle school, I think would be kind of a tragedy. We need another auditorium. 2 gyms we use every day for physical education. We don't have enough gyms for athletics, truthfully, for the district, because we share that with Park District, high school wrestling. If you were going to replace, I would certainly look at replacing what you have, the way it is. I wouldn't cut down anything. As far as the gyms, I guess you would have them there for athletic extracurricular use, but you wouldn't have 2 gyms there for daily use. Classroom size is small. That's the downside of our middle school. We have the in classrooms that were used for whatever when it was built, but I think science on the other end, I really don't know, but those in classrooms are large. But the middle classrooms are small. They are smaller than probably what they should be, but they function for a long time when kids have gotten their education. We still get our education in. So at one point, I really thought a new middle school would be nuts. I mean, that would be a good thing for the community, but then along the way, I kind of changed my mind. We use too much of that building to go into a building where less is there. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I would have to concur. I was of the same mind, and you talk to the teachers long enough, and they convinced me as well that you know, unless you're gonna replace like for like and get them exactly what they've got, it's.
And when I say space that's not used, I'm talking space that's like, we've got a lot of stairwell space that's really unused space, unusable space, that's included in $125,000.
Yeah.
So, I know,
It's not official.
when we put the new space together, we took into account what classrooms were used. And you actually, I believe, we gave more classrooms than what you have in that new proposal. The only thing we don't have is 2 gyms and an auditorium.
But that would kick it
That's
up to
gonna-
around 25 million.
It's gonna put you up to 20, 21, 22 million. Because your space will go down because you won't have all the stairwells. You won't have some of that, we count all the boiler room space. You won't have a boiler room that big. Those type of utility spaces won't nearly be that big. So that $125,000 includes all that space, so.
I guess I would also throw in, having a school in town has its pluses and minuses. We're right in the middle of everything that's going on, there's a lot of foot traffic around. But we also have kids that walk to school and ride bikes to school every day. And if middle school was moved outside of town, a lot of that's gonna stop, just like it did for the general. It's really handy for those kids to be able to ride bikes or after a practice, walk home. Those are things to consider.
Is there what do you foresee, obviously, when you go tearing into an old building, Pandora's box opens up and.
That's exactly why our fees, as high as it is, it's a 100-year-old building. There's so many unknowns, and this is such a complex project, and we have to phase it in, probably a 3-phase project to get this done and get you back in school come August 2020. But yeah, you're right, we could open up Pandora's box.
How is the envelope of the building itself?
Actually, it's in really good shape. We
So
found that-
basically, we're talking interior.
We're all, this is all interior stuff. And what we found when we dug into the auditorium, it's probably the best built building you've got in the district.
Which auditorium? You dug into that.
I mean, the elevator, I'm sorry. The elevator project. Cause it took, yeah, it was, I mean, you're talking walls this thick. But yeah, no, the outside envelope's in good shape. Probably need a new roof at some point in time. Other than that, it's in really good shape.
All right, any other questions from the board? Okay, then I would accept a motion to approve the middle school HVAC project, the TCSE agreement part. In a second.
I'll second.
Nancy?
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Mr. Bain?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller absent, Mrs. Dorr?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. The next item, the last item of the old business is the high school sports complex renovation project. This also is a TCSE agreement.
Yeah, and what this will be for is for the high school track. Given that we're going to be looking at the high school track, we want to also give an alternate bid for a new football field that goes with the track. That would be an alternate above and beyond, and then we need to look at the press box and get changes for that. I was glad to find out that, what is the size differential, that we will not need an elevator for the press box?
No, we can't.
Because
we
it's
won't
less
get to
than
that
500.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, less than 500 square feet, you do not need an elevator for, so the press box does not need to be ADA accessible. So
Currently, the press box is 240 square feet. I think it's 8 by 30. And that's what we would look at replacing.
So this would be going in and looking at options for the track, the football field, slash soccer field, slash band field, slash, and
And
then,
lighting.
Lighting.
oh, and lighting, yes. We would also like to add lighting into that. The May 8th storm twisted them the last time, so we're looking at getting LED lights that would be lower, smaller, and forward.
Kind of been limping by on that instead of replacing those units at the time when we did some repairs on those.
This study that they're gonna do on this, is this gonna be as one big project, or can it be broken out?
That's where I think that if I understand what you're asking, you'll have alternate bids, and you'll be able to pick stuff, like we did with the auditorium. The new auditorium at the high school, we didn't pick those classrooms, we didn't do the classrooms because of the price point that it came with. So we'll be able to say, we're gonna do this, but not this.
Okay.
So
Or new
partnering,
options.
partnering off of Rick's comment, as far as bidding it, will you bid an artificial surface separate to a separate vendor, or you'll try to roll it into a general's contract?
What I expect to see on this is you will not actually have a general contractor bid this.
Okay.
You will have a specialty contractor, or several of them. They do tracks,
Mhm.
they do fields,
Yeah.
they do press boxes, all of them do.
That's what
The
I would have
lighting-
expected,
The
so.
lighting is kind of the outlier, because most of them don't do their own lighting, but they'll act as a general contractor and do the lighting.
Okay.
Would be any other updating of like, the restrooms or any of that stuff, or just kind of maintain it?
Yeah, kind of maintain it.
And I think the plan would be for the press boxes, basically pick the old press box up, get rid of it. Get a pre-manufactured one, come in, set it, you're done. On the same existing structure.
And the money that we bonded for the auditorium, if there is left over, it has to be spent at the high school.
At the high
Use
school.
it on that project, yes, at the high school.
So I guess I have a couple questions. One, given this laundry list of things that need to be done inside the classroom, like why, other than the track and not being able to hold meets, why is the press box a priority over
Some of the
these
things that are
classroom
on
items?
those at the high school, so like the whiteboards have all been replaced, correct, Steve?
Everybody that's asked.
Everybody that's asked, so the whiteboards have already been replaced. I'm trying to think of what else is on the list of the inside the classrooms. A lot of it was more painting. General Johnny Logan is the next one that's on the list to really get some hardcore painting,
When roofs are on here, the roof's an issue with the high school.
roofs are always a concern everywhere, but,
I think the roofs are all.
the roofs are all.
You're
We've
under warranty.
replaced, yeah.
You're completely under warranty at the high school.
It says mismatched floors throughout the building, none of the floors match, and
Right,
then
and
the
so that would
tiles
be-
are all mismatched.
That would be one of those projects that I said earlier, when you come in, if we could take all the tiles out of the commons area and around the hallways, and then lay some other flooring down, that'd be a good project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, why the athletic priority over some of the classroom? I'm just
I think
curious.
because those are safety,
Yeah.
the press box is a safety issue, The track is a safety issue. We have some issues on the football field also that are safety issues, sprinkler heads that, need replaced, adjustment. The track, drainage on the football field, not draining properly, and then that's just gonna degrade the track when we do replace it. And just kind of,
Limiting people on the press box now because of.
Yes.
we have limited the people on top of the press box
But
because.
when it comes down to like the flooring and stuff like that, those are gonna be some of those miscellaneous projects that we can do
Right.
over the course of time, and what we're gonna need to do is prioritize which one of those miscellaneouses are we doing now. This is a larger project. It's,
The press box will have to be replaced before next season.
During drums at Apple time, I know there was a parent that told me they were informed not to lean against the outside wall.
That's right.
that is correct.
That's correct.
Cody?
And I also heard complaints at drums at Apple time of members of other schools' bands twisting their ankles in the hole in the football field.
That's true.
And I would like to remind you that is a classroom. If it's December or February or January and we've had freezing temperatures and rain and snow, out there where that school is currently at, if we have a 55-degree day pop up, our students still can't get outside for PE because the ground is so saturated in mud. To where if we had a turf field, that can be used that day, every day of the year, for PE and for other activities if teachers decide to take their classes outside. The opportunities with the turf field are endless in my opinion for our entire school district, for different activities. I mean, that surface, Mr. Moreland's talked to me about the drums at Apple time and losing schools coming to our competition because we're the only competition that hosts on grass now. And a lot of these schools are leaving and going to Edwardsville's competition where they have a turf field. And, I mean, it's a classroom. And
Don't we have to do something with the field over the summer anyway?
Well, when
Is it to a point where we got to tear up?
our
for-
sprinkler system, we'll need to figure something out and
We
then
basically
if we
tear
don't
up
do a
the
turf
field.
field, we're gonna need to do something with the crowning and the soil or whatever they call the things, and then the current sprinkler system, we have to come up with.
So you're gonna spend some money on the field, maybe not for a turf, but you're gonna basically tear up, almost start over anyway with a real field.
Yes.
And Andrew Wilson, he talks to me a lot about the maintenance issues and the work he does during the summer before football season and up through football season. He has to mow that field every day of the week. Otherwise, because it grows so fast and it's so thick and they fertilize it so heavy and water it so much to keep it thick, it grows a quarter of an inch a day. And if they don't, then they have thatch problems and the grass is not going to be quality.
So if we get a turf football field, I'm hearing that the other schools'
So
lawns
more
will start to
that's
get
what I
mowed.
mean,
That
the
will help-
facings
that will
of the rest of
definitely
the
help with the
schools are
load.
then gonna have, where he spends 2 hours a day on it on the summer, so 10 hours, and that's just on the mowing, that's not painting, watering, fertilizing, that's just the mowing, he's spending 10 hours a week mowing the football field. To where that 10 hours, think about what 10 hours would do at the General and Carruthers and
Yeah.
middle school and I mean,
What about the cut down of the prep time,
absolutely.
to get the,
I mean, for everything, for drums at Apple time, for the football games, for soccer games, for, I mean, if we put the soccer field in there, then our soccer team is playing at our high school. I mean, and I would love for our
You know
wrestling
how
team to
many
get to
hours that
wrestle at our
is?
high school and,
How many hours
To
to
line
set up
the
for a
field?
football
to prep,
game?
yeah.
To prep?
every time- Yeah.
Typically a
Time
day,
game.
2
a day,
days.
the
Two
entire
guys.
day Friday, Kyle and Andrew are both out there the entire time.
They start painting it on Wednesday.
And they may have to paint twice a week if we've got a game that very next Monday or vice versa. And here's the other part of this, the maintenance part of the football field this year has been cut down 33% because we haven't had a freshman team this year. So we get a freshman football team next year and we have a sophomore football team and a varsity football team, we're back to 3 teams. Their workload on the football field then went back up 33%.
You just opened a real big can of worms with that one. Because then the question is going to be, okay, in 3 years, are we gonna have a varsity team?
The numbers at the middle school look good. It's our freshman class that is low. The 8th grade numbers are good. I was actually talking to Mr. Navarro about this morning. And he said that he is hearing that the junior pro levels are good, it's just the freshman class. And then the sophomore class as
I
well.
will also say that, should, God forbid, we don't have football in so many years, having a turf field would be good because it would be soccer. Right now, if we replace it with grass and get a new sprinkler system and pour the money into that, it's just football. If we actually do a turf field, you're bringing soccer into the high school's domain, and we'll be able to play soccer on it. And if we don't have a football field, we're still playing soccer.
How often does the turf fields have to be relined?
Relined? You'll want to replace the field. They recommend 7 years, but you're gonna get a lot more than 7 years out of it.
When you say
Probably
replace the
12
field, the
12 to
entire,
12 to 15 years, you won't ever have to line it again, because it's stitched in turf. The white lines are all stitched in, your numbers are all stitched in, your logo's all stitched in. The only thing that you, maintenance-wise, you'll have is you'll have to add some of the rubber pellets every so often, and you'll want to groom the field, which is basically a or yard sweeper you pull behind the gator or whatever, and it picks up and makes the grass stand up.
So if we do the field, the track, and just the press box, then are we gonna be coming back though in a year and saying we need to redo the bleachers and the restrooms, and then, I mean, then it's, yeah, so
I
then
can tell you
we're
that when we-
ripping down a brand new press box to replace the bleachers and
Well,
bathrooms.
the press box is on a separate structure than from the bleachers. There's components that are tied to it, but it would not have to come down if you replace the bleachers.
But they're pretty sound, aren't they, the bleachers?
Yeah,
Are there any issues?
Prior to
I haven't
replacing the
seen
football
any
bleachers, we're gonna
issues.
need to do the baseball bleachers. The baseball bleachers are pretty bad. But again, there's gonna be a lot of other, there is. Right now, we're gonna have a lot of projects, and we're gonna continue to do a lot of projects, because there's a lot of things that do need to be fixed, like inside the building and outside the building. I don't see the football field bleachers being done, because the baseball, I mean, if we're doing bleachers next, I would think the baseball bleachers need to be done next.
We don't do your bleacher inspections,
Yeah.
so.
But I would also think that there's gonna be a lot more stuff done inside the schools before we start working on our high school bleachers either. Now, the bathrooms, paint, new tiles on the floors, little things cosmetically you can do to clean them up and spruce them up. New partitions, things of that nature, but, I wouldn't see taking out the concession stand and changing that. Not for a long, long time.
I was thinking of turf field and then everything else gonna fall down around.
All right, other questions from the board? All right, the only thing that I would like to add to this is I have been asked a couple times by some elderly people that go to the bleachers at the high school. They would like 3 rows of handrails, and that's it. Because it's difficult for the elderly to get up some of those steps. Wouldn't be 10 feet worth of rail.
No.
They just want, not on the first row, obviously, but 2 or 3 rows of railing, and they're happy.
Would that be something this person could do, or would this be?
Probably fill that in.
It'd be like the lights, it'd be a general job outside.
Yeah, we can get that in that project easy, that's not a problem.
Okay, then I will accept a motion to approve the TCSE agreement for the high school complex.
So moved.
Second? Second. Nancy?
Mrs. James?
Yes.
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller absent, Mr. Bain?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorr? Yes. Mr. Green?
yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. New business. First item is the kid account presentation.
Yes.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna
Thank you.
turn the floor over to Ms. Ehlers and Mr. Todd. We do have representatives from Kid Account here to answer any questions, but really, I believe Ms. Ehlers and Mr. Todd were the ones that kind of started this process, looking at our pickup and our dismissal and wanting to get some solutions. They
Did-
found,
Did the entire board get a chance to look at all the videos that were sent to us? Nobody?
Those that wanted to at least saw them.
Wow. Matt's passing out some papers, some of the challenges that both of us face. I'm not gonna read like every single one, but he's also passing out, I had one of my secretaries just randomly grab, this is like 1 day changes front and back. So these are calls that were made in 1 day, parents didn't know, the grandparents. So when they're not there, it causes a real problem for us. This is what we do for bus, just to have the accountability to check off the names so that we know the students are getting on the correct bus. We have, and I know Matt has had the same, once in a while we've had issues where students have changed lines to where with kid account, we would be scanning the little numbers as the kids got on the bus. And then the bus drivers would also know, who was on their bus. Because I know Shauna has told me several times, we have sub drivers and they don't know the kids, to where with this system, I mean, it just, the accountability, I'm telling you, you guys don't know what it's like when you can't find a kid. I mean, it makes me feel like I'm gonna throw up. I mean, it's horrible. And it's happened before to me, it's happened to Matt. It's just an unbelievably horrible feeling, and it's happened every year. And I mean, I know that Keith I've showed him my system and Lauren as well, and they said, I'm not sure there's anything else that we could do to make it better. I mean, he said the system that we had, but you still have the human error. I mean, if the secretary is busy taking care of a bloody nose and gets a phone call of a change and something else, she may forget to go mark it on the sheet, you know, on the bus sheet, which is this one, or the change sheet. So I think the accountability piece, and also, I mean, they have the system over here, the scanner, and it even works what would you call that little iPad looking thing? Tablet. That's like on the counter, and it takes a picture of every visitor. The visitor has to write what their name is, what they're there for, and it spits out a sticker, automatic.
Okay, currently, when someone calls into your buildings and says that my child needs changed,
Right.
whether it's to ride a bus, be picked up by somebody different, how do you know the person on the other end is indeed somebody that can make that decision?
You don't. I
Okay,
mean,
and how will this change that specific problem?
So they'd have to have a username or password
Right.
to get into the system.
So there, okay,
So as a
so the parent has to go into this system.
Well, actually, what we would recommend, and our system really accounts for those changes that happen throughout the day, of course. We would recommend a system where a PIN or a password would be given, and now that would be managed inside the current SIS system. But that's how that would be handled.
Okay,
Does-
what's the possibility of a parent not having access?
Yeah,
So-
They can still
So a
call.
parent could still call in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
then we're back to the original
Well,
question and the problem.
I think the problem more is the accountability of us having to memorize all these cards and all these parents and all these grandparents, to where if they have the card that you scan, you know that kid's in the right spot. I mean, we're doing it now on memorizing. I mean, it's like, I mean, that's why I have my secretaries out there, because they know those parents, because they're in that front office. They see those parents coming in, they see the grandparents. You know, we have them switching cars. So we're like, who is that? I'm not sure. I'll have to wait till they get closer. I mean,
And I get all that, and I totally
Yeah.
agree, because I watched the videos, and I think it's a wonderful system, and I think we need it. It's just the
Yeah.
questions that, as I was
Yeah.
watching it, I came up with, and
We have, it's a very good question. We have areas and, you know, we could spend a lot of time going through a presentation. We do have note areas on every student's page that those codes could be given to parents. So if I'm a parent, I'm calling in, and I'm saying, I'm here to pick up Sally Smith, the secretary could easily see, okay, what is your code? My code is 1572, okay, that's who you are. If I don't know that's who you are, that information can be added to our system. A lot of schools actually manage that through their own SIS system, where they have that already in place. So we do have an option for it. It would require a little bit of data transfer from our system, but that's what we do, so.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So this was a Friday.
Yeah.
12:30
This is the
dismissal.
days.
So I see Max's name on here, so I know exactly what happens today. Wake up, I forgot it was a 12:30 dismissal. He says, don't make me,
Right.
sit and
Your
latchkey or
latchkey.
whatever till 5 o'clock.
Right.
Can somebody come and pick me up? And I bet that's probably most of the calls on here is, then the parent says, well, yeah, let me find somebody. What
Yeah.
is the average though on
Average,
just
we
on a
would
Tuesday?
have probably at least a half to 3/4 of a page, probably closer
Okay.
to 3/4. I've had a whole page, every day, you're probably getting close to a page,
Yeah.
every day.
About 20 to 35 kids in
At
our
least.
building on a daily
Yeah.
basis. And that's not taking into account also, we have systems and structures in place where when the parent calls in, we make that change at the end of the afternoon, we call down to all the classrooms, we inform the teachers. But then we also have where our system's circumvented through other communication means, so Class Dojo. Just last week, we had a parent call in, or not call in, she sent a Class Dojo message. The teacher didn't get that message. The student got on the wrong bus. The parent come to pick them up. Where's my kid at? Oh my gosh, and then run home. Today, we had, just this afternoon during curriculum council, there's a parent who came up, Mr. Keener noticed outside, and came to pick his student up from Good News Club. We got back to Good News Club, the student is not there. We're talking, it's already 4:30 in the 4:36 when he was outside the window. So then I'm thinking, he's in a panic, thinking, where's my kid at? And did they go to Latchkey? Do you know? The parent's not sure which bus they were on, so then I got on my phone, we have a spreadsheet, I searched the spreadsheet, found the student's name, okay, they're gonna be either on bus 6, 19, or 24, so then I go back to a back room,
Yeah.
and where the secretary keeps all of the bus folders that are updated daily, and it has checklists and notes on it, so then I'm thinking, oh God, please let him be on one of these buses, as we're both in a panic state this afternoon, and I'm flipping through the folders, and I find the folders, and I pull them out, and I look through, and I found, okay, he was on bus 19, okay, do you know where bus 19 drops him at? Is that at grandma's? Is that, does he have a key to get in at home when he gets there? And so we can't keep track of where all the students are going because there's the remind text messages the teacher used, so parents may text them in, that circumvents the office. So we have systems and structures in place, but they're not fail-proof. Just the other day with a student, we had a developmentally disabled student who made it out into the parking lot, who was noticed actually by Mr. Carrington's wife, who subs in the building, and as we release students, they go out to their parents and they meet their parents or they meet the car. Well, the student got up and walked out. We have 3 staff members, and no one recognized that student's parent was not there. Miss Carrington noticed, and the staff member, as soon as it was pointed out, recognized, yeah, he should not be out here. We're talking about a 4th grader who's got an IQ range of between 50 and 60 and is developmentally delayed. And, he could have wandered out into the road. He could have, who knows where he would have went to. And so, having that conversation with staff, make sure. And when those ladies are gone, again, they know the cars, they know the faces. If I have one of them, we can look by and we can make it. If 2 of them are out on the same day, then it's not possible. We try to make a rotation now where that 3rd person is also out there recognizing those vehicles. And again, you pull up and there's a high school student there and you're like, who are you here to pick up? Which child? And so I'm here for my brother such and such. But there's no way to know who's picking who up. You just have to take them at their word, which is
And that's
What
what
happens if
custody
brother comes and he
issue
doesn't
comes
have his
in.
card to get scanned?
Yeah.
So if brother
That's-
comes, we
they-
can look them up.
Yeah,
We could,
they would have to go and we would just
So
have
you'd
to
have
look
to
it
call
up.
if you get
So
out.
it would even tell you
You can
with the
simply
custody.
look them up on the device by typing in the first
Yeah.
3 letters of the last name. The list of people approved to pick up that child will pop up. If there's somebody who's banned and has a court order, that name will also pop up, and you can click on that, and it will call the SRO and let them know.
I'm assuming that you can have an unlimited number of people
Yes.
listed on a
You
particular
can,
child.
yeah,
You can.
absolutely.
Well,
Because
Yeah.
it's like right now, I have a student who the dad gets them on one certain night. Well, we have to remember, and when you have multiple ones, where with this system, it would say, the dad, if it was a Wednesday, dad wouldn't be on there. It would say, no dad. So that's the nice part too, is you don't have to memorize all this and remember.
And the
It's
other
just
big
there.
thing is, in addition to your point about how many changes that happen in a day, we deal with schedules throughout the year, so you have a lot of custodial, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at mom's, or this week is dad's week, next week's is, that doesn't have to be managed anymore. You don't have those Post-it notes all over the place and trying to remember. Students are reminded on a daily basis based on those schedules. So not only the change, but those daily schedule changes are accounted for as well. I just looked at a school yesterday. There were 400 students in that school. 169 changes yesterday, including schedules and also, so there were actually more schedule changes than not. But you're talking about the little guys. They don't realize it's Monday. They need to be reminded, hey, it's Monday, you need to go to the bus. You don't go to the car line, or vice versa, because the last thing you want to do is send a first grader to grandma's house and no one's going to be there that day. So
This system, one of the questions that was brought to me by the association was, what's the workload of the teachers? The
Mhm.
classroom teacher, how's this gonna affect the classroom teacher, and what happens if the classroom teachers realize this is more work on them?
actually, it's the classroom teachers love us. Actually, what it does, it takes the dismissal management away from teachers, and all that time that they're worried about. Well, mom's already changed this dismissal twice today and via email, so I've got to go check my email, or I got to get a text or a note that came in. So they're managing these dismissals throughout the day. That goes away. All of that time is now spent on instruction. They literally open their page at the end of the day, and I'll just quickly show you. They're going to go to their teacher's page on their smart board. They're going to hit a page, and it's going to show any changes for that student. You can see someone's in pink here. At the end of the day, they pull it up. It's a 5-minute process. And that's happening at the end of the day. So you can see this student's change. It was in the car pickup. Here are all the buses. There's the change to the bus. Here are the after school. So you had mentioned, Mr. Todd, about the after school event where a student was. We have an after school module where we actually take roll with those students come in. We know who's supposed to be there. So that one student, that after school event sponsor would know, hey, where is this student? They're not here yet. They're supposed to be here. Or if there's an extra, hang on, you're not here today. Let's look at the schedule. Oh, wait a second, your mom's picking you up. It has a note here, your mom's going to be picking you up today. So all of those things happen at the end of the day, very, very efficient. And really that's the value. Now, I did a review of the car line at General Logan, and we will make significant improvements day one. It really will. And it's tough without the tools, without these tools in your hands. When you said you just don't know, you're just taking for granted when someone pulls up, even if they have a hang tag or I'm here to pick up this person, you sort of have to take their word for it. In our system, that's not the case anymore, and I'll just show you real quick. If they don't have a card, if I was to search for let's just do Smith here.
Well, they won't have pups. Anderson.
Okay. Okay. Oops. Let me.
Anderson or Wynn.
While he's looking at that, one of the things that happens too, since we have all those changes occur during the day, is that as we're checking off those bus folders and the buses are rolling up, we've got our radios. We have our lists like you see there. We print from the computer. These are the kids that were absent. These are the kids that were parent pickup up to the very last minute. And then we're checking the buses off. And so we radio back with such and such a parent pickup where they did, and so that we're waiting on someone to look there. And sometimes what happens, and more often than I would like, is you have 3 or 4 kids on a bus and you're sending the bus on the way because there's 6 buses lined up behind them and you have no idea where that kid is. They're not on the list that you have printed out of kids who left early, and that's printed like 2:55, like it's the last minute, we print that out. And they're not on the list of parent pickup, and we don't know where those kids are. Were those kids there? Did they make it home? Yes, but they weren't on that bus. They were most likely parent pickup or somewhere in that process they got.
Is the bus driver tied into this too? Will he
This
have- will he
system?
have-
Well,
will he have-
we can. We find out that a lot of the transportation department, they're not quite prepared with some of the technology, with the Wi-Fi, with some of that access. So what we do provide our bus manifest, daily manifest. So we tell bus drivers or transportation, here are the students who aren't on your bus today. Maybe they signed out early, maybe they're absent. Here are the students that are new on your bus with notes saying this student's going to grandmother's, this student is riding home with Johnny, whatever that is. but they have that piece of paper so they know immediately, here are the changes to my bus. They're not radioing into the office saying, where's Sally? She's always on my bus, holding the bus up. When they really don't have the data to say, go ahead and leave, I guess go ahead and leave, cross your fingers kind of thing. We know who's supposed to be on that bus on a daily basis. So, and I just wanted to show you real quick, if someone doesn't have the card, and of course we wouldn't have, and I'm just gonna go here and just type in Johnson, okay? So it would bring up a list of students. So if I just said Keith Johnson, I select the name. What happens is a list of pups come up. We call them pups, pickup people. So these are the list of pups, and you can see these 3 people are approved to pick up that student. These are the tools they currently don't have. They don't have that in hand. These are the cards that we typically use. The cards are for efficiency, okay? So this is that student, actually, Keith Johnson. So they would present this card, they would scan, this list would pop up. And you notice, actually, we actually have a red name there. That's actually what we call a band pup. That's a pup that has a court order. And there are court orders that we need to address. So when that happens, that student isn't instructed to come outside. However, a text message just went to the resource officer, the administrator, saying, hey, we got a bit of an issue. So it's a very proactive approach to dealing with the situation versus that student walking out saying, who are you here to get in with? And, oh, wait a second, now we've got a problem. So just some of the features we provide.
Asked about the teachers, and you say the teachers love you.
Yes, they do.
Much
Yeah.
easier, it takes a load off of them.
Absolutely.
Parents,
Parents?
with the change, how do they?
Well, so I do a lot of reviewing, and we do a lot of first day, second day. We help out in the installation, implementation, and the parents just they love it. They'll come up and just say thanks for doing this. And they'll go up to the administrators and thank the administrators. In today's world, the parents, especially the younger parents, they get it. They want this. They really do. It's not a, I don't want to give you my student's fingerprint. I mean, that's the past. So today these parents, they love it, and we've only had positive.
We have. We just installed in Oklahoma last week, and on the very first day, the administrator was walking around just to see how things went, and the parents were literally leaning out of the car and saying, thank you for doing this for our children. And a video that we sent that can be made available that I just filmed on Friday and put together on Sunday, so it's on YouTube, and they've got it if you'd like to see it at some point. The administrator is talking about how she's in church, and parents are walking up to her and saying, thank you for improving the security of my child's school and the safety of my child.
We would invite.
So you can call on any one of our.
Call our administrators. These administrators, they become champions of this security. And you're going to be leading in this.
And you get to know the people better because you've got the names in front of you, so you begin to, it says grandma and the name. So you say, that's grandma. Hello, Nancy, good to see you. And it becomes a PR thing as well.
And as far as on the parent end, the really only thing they have to do is carry that card.
That's it.
And if they don't have it, they can
on their
search.
platform.
No, and that's strategic.
So when I realize at 2:30 I'm not gonna be able to make it to pick up, and it's pickup day, now I need to send after school, parents still calling. It's just making it easier for them to put last name, change.
The secretary literally has to make about 2 clicks, click the name, click the other item that they're gonna be in that day, and it automatically populates change reports, bus reports, the student classroom, after school programs, everything auto-populates on literally 2 clicks. So on average, I talked to Poplar Bluff, that's one of our clients, they said on average the secretaries save an hour a day each in work, and the teachers are saving 30 to 45 minutes of dealing with calling the classroom, and Tommy says he's riding with Billy and notes and backpack and whatnot. So it's a massive time saver.
Didn't you say he could do that on his phone though?
Yeah.
Rather than calling in?
Well, that's what I was saying. On the bottom here, it's marked out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we don't do that, and
Yeah.
it's really having a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
That
If
is
you've got
something
divorced parents that are back and
Yeah.
forth, changing it back and forth and back and forth, that gets to be a problem. If you've got a grandmother who's got a flip phone and she's trying to figure it out, that gets to be a problem.
She's frustrated.
She's also
Yeah.
got a mom or dad, not to be sexist either direction, but they can't remember their password and they're calling you 3 times a day and resetting the password. It just gets to be, that's your critical data, and that's a lot of people to have their hands in the middle of things that you're liable for. So in my opinion, and in our opinion, makes it harder to contain the data that
We
you're
have the
liable
modular.
for. We can do it, we
but
don't recommend
we
it.
don't want your secretaries to become tech support.
Yeah,
We,
you can
It
have
doesn't
it,
make sense.
you won't like it.
Not that it really matters, is there any other district in southern Illinois right now that has this system?
not in southern Illinois, but southeast Missouri, we have Poplar
That's where
Bluff,
we saw it.
Cape, Jackson,
New Madrid,
uh,
St. John is.
I mean, to
Yeah.
me, this is like 1990s,
Yeah.
and we need
Yes.
to move to
Yeah.
this, and
This
I have to ask,
Sure.
but it's really well, it's not irrelevant, but a kid is priceless.
Absolutely.
What is the cost on this for the district?
Well, we've sent over a proposal, and what we have, basically a single system, just for one school, is $5,400 per year, and that covers everything. That covers install, that covers 2 cards for every student, that covers that covers the equipment. I mean, so that's where we are. We give steep discounts for district pricing. If
So
we
how many
would use
schools are we
3 or
talking
more
about?
schools.
Well, that's not where we're landing on price with you, because we give steep district, for us to come into a district and start managing and working with your IT team that deals with all of your data, that is a massive time saver. Once we knock out one school, the rest of them become extremely easy, because there's a process and there's a team and we know everybody. So we start cutting things significantly because we're already here and we're already in process, so.
Yeah, so the number ends up being $8,200 for the entire district,
All of your schools,
and that's with all our
That's
discounts.
a yearly fee.
That's an annual fee.
and includes
So-
all the uploads and
so
the student
it-
cards.
Out of curiosity,
Mhm.
what's the biggest difference on the pickup line in general that this system does?
Yeah. From what I saw at General Logan, well, first off, the first day, I could actually do the dismissal. I don't know anyone there, so it provides the
With perfect
tools at that
accountability.
location. I mean, when I saw this, those poor secretaries, they were running around, I mean, struggling, and you had so many, the line was very inefficient, causing people to want to pull over. Now you got
I guess, how does the staging of the parents get relayed to?
Oh, yeah, so what happens in the gym, or I'm sorry, in this, it's a cafeteria. This is the pickup order, and you can see, these students are just in order. These are the last 4, that I put in. So Keith Johnson, and these are grade levels. So that gets put up on a board. Right, like right here,
Like a
you would
TV
actually see a
monitor or
TV
something.
monitor. And as they're scanning those cards in, that list is in order. So they preset these students up in
The parents that are
order.
driving through aren't scanning the card.
No.
So what happens
You guys
is a staff member will go out, you
Yeah.
have a
Oh,
card,
okay.
and I
We'll
know
be
this
walking,
is, you would
sort
have a
of like-
card, so you would
Yeah.
present that.
I'll walk
and
through, scan.
And I'd say, you're allowed to pick up this student, and that student
Yeah.
would pop in on there based on where you are in line.
And
So
then in the
it's very
cafeteria, they're
efficient.
lining them up.
So,
So does the
Yeah.
student also have a card like on their backpack that you're
No.
scanning to show that they got picked up? Then how do
No.
you know the student got picked up?
but because the student, that is a staff member, okay? And if I could go back here, oops.
Staff members
The
scan them.
staff
Should there be
member is
somebody-
basically dismissing them. Okay, instead of having your secretaries running all around, you basically have a staff member and they're in a line and you're just Xing them out. That actually puts them in the report. It says this student was released with this approved pup at this time. And at any time, you can go in and look at that information. So if you're going, where's this student? He wasn't on the bus. Let me look at the report. Oh, he was picked up with grandma.
So-
Oh, that's right, grandma picked him up today.
If you guys were a line of cars, how this would work at Carruthers is one of the staff members or myself may go out and we would scan each one of your cars. So we get through 8 or 10 people, or as we scan them, it pops up on a screen, on a projection screen in our cafeteria. The kids are watching that, and another staff member in there lines everybody up. And as the cars drive through, here comes the line, here you
Walk
go,
through, bam, bam,
here you
bam,
go,
bam.
Johnny, here you go, Susie, there's your, and so
And
the kids
someone's
are
out
lined up
there
in
to
the same
watch
order
them.
that the
Yeah,
car
we,
is.
They
we'll-
load like
they
10
can't
at a
walk
time.
by themselves.
So that's-
We'll walk them out.
That's 2 cards per child. I'm sure there's something for more when you have grandparents.
Yeah,
Or
well, that is up to the school. We give the school, if you have a card printer, and I'm not sure if we do. So you have your own card printer, so you can actually, say these are
Schools
$2 a
charge between
piece or
$2 and
$5.
$5 for
Yeah.
them, and they throw it in the activity account. We don't touch that money. We also don't sell you hardware. We don't, we provide you additional items to, like the stand, the printer, things like that. But it runs on the equipment that you already own. At stages, you might decide that you want to upgrade something. The items are not expensive. We don't sell them and mark them up to you. We tell you where to get them cheapest. it's not our game. We're really just doing software, and we make recommendations about hardware here and there, but generally speaking, this is web hosted. We have schools of all different income levels, from iPads to Chromebooks to the fanciest to the cheapest, to the poorest. You know, some Title IV schools are using this. We're not here to sell you hardware. It runs on anything, an Android, an iPhone, anything.
So with it being a district cost, what's the benefit to the high school for this?
Well, the high school, what we have on here, and let me see if I can get back here.
While he's doing that, there is a reunification process that I don't think you guys
Yeah,
have talked about.
we do have a reunification. Can you get that
So
back
if there
on?
was like
Yeah.
a bomb threat or a natural disaster, take the Maine storm. When you go out, if your cell phones are working, if you've got the technology still up and going, granted the cell towers aren't down because it connects that way. You could account for all of your kids and where they are. He can talk more about how that works.
Yeah, we what's called a reunification tool. We basically reunify after any sort of disaster, any sort of emergency evacuation. So the red card, green card process, and you know that most schools have that, and I believe you all have that as well. Basically is saying, you know, is the student in your class or not? If they're not, we can quickly communicate that. But the other more important, well, not more important, I say equally as important, we have something called the visitors module. This is a full-blown visitors module. So if a visitor comes into your building and signs in, they're going to sign in. They're going to have a yellow badge that gets printed out. We provide the printer for free. That is put on that user.
My box. Happens to be.
So the other items, the students sign in and out, and we also have a staff sign in and out. So we have a full sign in and out module for the high school. So I see that as, and those are $1,300 annually for all of those features. So of course, you know, we manage the data, we manage the staff. And if you have, do you have A+ students or cadet students
that travel
between campuses? Okay, well, a lot of schools have that, where they have high school students coming in tutoring. And if they do that, we can monitor when they leave the high school, when they get to the elementary.
You basically ruin their lives.
They don't like it, they don't like it at all.
Because we can monitor when they're coming and going, so they can't fudge on the books anymore. But the other piece of this is that when they're not there, it's in red, and if they don't arrive in the 8 minutes it's supposed to take, the A+ teacher gets a text message that says Johnny hasn't arrived. Now, A+ teachers, number one, are going around and gathering these books from everywhere and having to go through the sign-in, sign-out books. They can just print a report now, you know, from their desk and not travel. The other piece is that they're not calling the front office and saying, hey, did Johnny get there? And they're going, I don't know if Johnny get there. No, that makes another phone call to the classroom to figure out if Johnny's in that classroom or if he's whatnot. Now that they're automating the check-in, check-out, and eliminating the ability for them to go to Taco Bell or whatever they do in between, it becomes a very controlled exchange between campuses.
So the sign in and out is at every office, and we have something that the secretaries have created. It's called the burn pile. So all of these books, these sign in and out, all of this stuff, these bus notes, all of the things. We take a picture of the burn pile at every school we go to, every individual office we go to, and it's a burn pile of all this paperwork, and it's all accounted for right on here. So that's a big thing too. The secretaries also high five us when we leave.
Like fist bump, chest bump.
Yeah,
I mean, like it changes their life. So in Oklahoma, where I left, I went back to take a picture of the burn pile, and she'd already not only cleaned up all of the paper, but she, for the first time in forever, she'd gotten out the Clorox pads and washed it all up, and all of the paper is gone that is a mess in the front office, which means that the data entry is cut down so significantly, which kind of makes them hate their jobs. You know, just having to type all those names in and who left and who picked them up, it's just, yes, sir.
Two quick questions.
Sure.
Implementation timeline and is it a one-year contract, multi-year contract?
Well, it's a one-year contract, but we hold
one school year.
One school year. We do hold that price firm
Forever,
as
with
long as
upgrades.
you're our customer.
And we do have a 100% retention rate, so we like to give you the option because we don't want to lock you in. We will lock you in at that price, and we do offer upgrades and all the software upgrades and new things that come out every year.
Implementation, we typically will work with data, you know, to get the data into the system. Typically, the car line, which is the biggest sort of implementation, we're there typically 2 days.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, if the board triggered the decision today.
Oh, okay.
The administration approval,
Sure.
when would we see this? in the
Well, we
schools?
have to look at our schedule. We have a lot of installs lined up. I would say
Talking-
probably 2 to 3 weeks would
Okay,
be
so
the
you're not
first
talking
week.
90 days out.
No,
No,
not
no,
at all.
no.
We have openings, we leave openings, because we have a lot of proposals out there that can be triggered pretty quickly, so
Okay, and
I'd
as far
say,
as printing the cards, is
Mhm.
that what we print?
well, we print the initial,
Okay,
so.
within that timeline, you could get
oh,
a
absolutely.
roster and,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's a fast, they have Power School, so you guys are,
Yeah.
we're actually partners with Power School. We also are a Clever company, so we have those two tools, so our data can talk back and forth. We can sync with your student information system, so there's not double data entry. That's a big, load on absentees and things of that nature.
So how will that work since we allow Emmanuel Lutheran access to our Power School?
It's not a problem.
They
By
won't be able,
school.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's per school,
We do a different database for each one of the schools.
yeah.
But if we need to take the transportation, if they share buses, we can bring that information together. We tailor it. The piece that he's not really talking about, no campus is the same. So we're going to individually tailor this for each and every one of your campuses. You might say, because we own and write the software, I want this button. Hey, I hate that. I like that. I love that. Will it do this? We can actually, this isn't like something coming out of a box. We go, sure. That's no problem. What would you like it to be like? And you get your changes. It takes development, but the development is a quick process because, we've done it in so many different situations. It's usually something somebody else has asked for. I just throw a logo that looks like yours on it and it's customized for you. Like the badges will have your logo on it. Easy.
I'm just gonna say, is there any other questions from the board?
Sorry.
Because I'm assuming, the two principals have looked it over, and they've customized what you guys need to make this work.
And hardware, I mean, I assume tablets we already own will be compatible.
Some of the tablets, Verizon has a great deal on some tablets right now. I actually demoed one of them. Keith gave me some credentials to test out, so it'd be a little bit of hardware we'd pick up.
What are we thinking, like price-wise for hardware?
Did you share that email with the first, it's $8,200 a year for the district, and I think the first year buying the hardware and stuff that I thought we were gonna need was gonna be around $12K. Because we're gonna put new projectors in the Brothers Cafeteria and the General Logan Cafeteria specifically for this purpose. It can be used with other purposes, but
Okay, so-
specifically for that, and then tablets.
Okay.
And then the next year, we're looking at the $8,200 a year.
So tablets is included in that 12,000 or no?
Yes.
How many tablets would you?
I was planning 3 per elementary and 2 at the middle school and high school. I was looking at 2 on the counters there, but you can have the counter ones and go outside, which I think is.
Yeah, scanners are included,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll probably just.
Yeah, you'll use a scanner.
Yeah.
You'll need a scanner per car line and.
Yeah, all that, our hardware is included, outside of the tablets, our hardware is included, the printer and the scanners,
And
in
then-
that 8,200.
So if somebody pulls through the car line without their card,
Mhm.
Oh, we just type in like
you'll have,
the-
so you'll need
yeah.
a scanner and a tablet to be in there.
Yeah.
Miss Terry needs a backpack.
But we're really big, yeah. Hoping you guys have your cards. Make it a whole lot easier.
There will always be those that
There will be.
Oh, yeah.
This is their baby, they'll hold on tight to that.
Some kids have 8 people on their pickup list. You have such a high divorce rate, and then all of a sudden there's 4 parents, and you've got double income families instead of single. This is such a different world than when we grew up. My mom was at home, and she came and picked us up. Now you've got 2 working parents, and now you've got 2 working parents that are divorced parents, and now you've got 4 sets of grandparents. And the list for some of these kids is this long, and the people out there putting them in cars can't know that many people and associate with them the right child. This just gives them the tools to handle modern society.
Very good.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, do we need a motion to approve the kid account purchase?
I'll make the motion or second it.
Which one you wanna do?
Who did what?
Who wants to do both?
Come on, Kevin.
I'll make it.
Okay, we got Kevin and Kevin.
They swear.
Nancy?
Mr. Beavers?
Thanks.
Mr. Bain?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller absent, Mrs. Dorr? Yes. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
Yes.
And Mr. Rundle?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 2 is to review to review the student scores.
If
Benchmark
you
data, Mr. Grody.
look at the screen behind you, you've got benchmark data. Oh.
Sorry. You're fine. I gotta go to Alabama tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What we've got here is, we just got done, well, didn't just get done, but we are now done with our 2018 fall benchmark data. So we're gonna look at reading, focusing on reading because I didn't want to have to do math and reading. But what we've got here is kindergarten early literacy benchmarking, and as you can see with that from last year, how they kind of, the triangle changed, the green is bigger, and that's exactly what you want to see.
And what is this?
What's that?
What is this?
This is just a kind of a summation of early literacy score.
Like Ames or?
Yeah, this is Ames Web, I'm
Okay.
sorry. And then, as they are first graders this year, you can see there's some regression, okay? Oral reading fluency for first grade, when you look at the national average, and what I did with this presentation is that I really looked at our social studies group, not our social studies group, our summer school group. And so the kids that were in summer school in the fall of 2018 had a 4.2 average. The whole class had a 20.9 average. And the national average for that group is 35. And so our summer school group had they were 30 less, or 31 less almost, while the whole class was about 14 less. What that tells me is we picked the right kids for summer school. The attendance at our summer school was a little less than what I would have liked. For kindergartners, we had about 49.5%, meaning kids didn't even, the average attendance, they didn't make it half the time, okay? That had 2 kids, though, that just never showed up. Once you take those 2 kids that never showed up with, and you look at the kids that were there, it was 74.25%. So once you take the kids that didn't show up out, you get a much better percentage. In first grade, we had 64%.
Wait, I'm confused. If they didn't show up, how did they even have a test score?
Well, they didn't show up for summer school.
Gotcha.
So they still got their benchmarked at the end of the year and at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And so what I'm looking at is the assumption is that the hypothesis would be that the kids that went to summer school would have had less regression than the kids that didn't go to summer school. In first grade, we had 1 kid that didn't show up, so the whole group was 64%, but if you take that 1 child out, it was 73% attendance rate. Second grade, 64.5, 1 kid that didn't show up, so 86 when you take his scores out. Third grade was 61%. As you go through there, the number of kids in summer school weren't great. Now, letter, word, sound fluency. Since in kindergarten, I can't look at kindergarten oral reading fluency. I can look at letter, word, sound fluency.
Why not?
Because they don't have it yet. They don't test for it. And so what I did here was I looked at the spring for the letter, word, sound fluency. And in the end of the year, last year, when they were kindergartners, the kids that were going to summer school, their average score was 28. The whole class's average score was a 38. At the beginning of this school year, the summer school kids' average score was a 26. They dropped 2 points. The whole class was a 35. They dropped 3 points. Not a huge differential, but at least something that we've you can see a difference with. At Curriculum Council, when I shared this, they asked if I would go into the Ames web data. Mrs. Russell's going to help me by printing me out a list by rank order. But look at what is the differential between the summer school group and not the whole class, but the kids that performed lowly, the low performing kids. So you try and look at the numbers to see if there's a differential that way too.
Compare apples to apples.
Kind of apples to apples, yeah. Here we've got first grade, same thing, oral reading, and then from last year to second grade this year. And what you see is the same thing. That triangle from last year grew nicely, and this year there is some regression, but still doing better than where they were at the beginning of first grade. When I look at the summer school group here, they dropped 1 point compared to the whole class that dropped 8 points. Okay, again, there's issues with your size and things of that nature, but
How many of those were new? Do you have that data? I mean, did that influence it at all?
what do you mean new? New
Maybe look at-
students?
Yeah.
No. second grade to third grade. And this is where you started, where we started to see, our summer school group actually dropped 38 points and the whole class dropped 27 points. And I think this was the point where we said, well, what would it have been if we would have done apples to apples and looked at the low performing kids instead of the whole class. Third graders that became fourth graders, you can see there's very little. The regression is starting to become less and less. If you look back to there, this regression is very low. And what you get here is summer school group dropped 32, 18. Fifth grade, they don't do as fourth graders, but here what we've got is the reading summation for the MAP assessment. And what I like to see here is as fourth graders, there was 36% of them in the low group. There was 11% of them in the low average group. This year, there's only 31% in the low group and 24% in the low average. You know, you start grouping the low average and the low together and you got maybe more in the fifth grade group. Yes, Ms. Dorr?
I'm just adding up those numbers. Here, it says as fourth graders reading. I mean, count-wise, that
When
could
I
be
say-
all the fourth graders. It's 17.
Oh, yeah, the number of kids are much lower in fourth grade. Did fourth grade only pilot the MAP in certain grades? That's what happened. So they only piloted the MAP
mean,
in certain grades.
classes.
In certain classes, yes. That was fifth grade. This is sixth graders. And what you'll see here now is where the fifth graders did take the MAP last year. All of them, right? All of them took the MAP last year. So you'll see the numbers a little bit more accurate here. But again, we went from 55 kids in the low to 38 kids in the low at the beginning of this year, to 33 to 31. So when you look at that with the whole class, you start seeing a nice trend data. Seventh grade, the same thing. 40 to 28, 28% to 19%. And in eighth grade, you start seeing the numbers a little bit different. This is 43 to 48, 18 to 25. But all in all, what we are seeing is our trend rate is starting to show, and this is the second year that we've done the MAP. I'll try and get a line graph next year where we can start showing that. What I'd like to see is every year we're starting to move more kids into that green and the yellows.
One, how do we compare? This doesn't show how we compare to the other schools that took the same test.
Right. Yeah, this is just
Do
one
we
of
have
the
that
reports.
data?
We can look at that data. They, I had issues with the middle school with the district reports, and I can print those out and I can email them to you. We didn't have the map, and you have to hit a button to close it out for them to start getting what the curriculum director and the superintendent would look at. So what I was doing was I was pulling graphs from what the teachers kind of look at. And then in ninth grade, where they're doing this, I wanted to show you another report that they have, and this kind of breaks down the standards and it goes into the overall performance and breaks down and gives more information. We are, after the first year, this is what, our second year really of digging in, just, was it today that we had people at the middle school? We contacted another school that does the MAP things, and they've done it longer than us, not much longer than us, but a little bit. And we had teachers coming in and showing our teachers kind of what graphs they look at, what information they look at, and how they use that data. As we're trying to really figure out the tool, we're getting better and better with that.
Does that break it down more?
Yeah, like you can break it down to the kids and everything like that, but it's, yeah. I just wanted to give you an overview of the reading. I did talk with Curriculum Council today about summer school. We're going to come up with a presentation for a possible summer school, some changes. Last summer what we did was we just said, pick me the lowest kids in K2, 3, 5, 6, 8. And there seems to be an interest in continuing a program for summer school this summer. But we're gonna look at the data and really kind of design what it is. Today, I was also informed that the Healthy Communities grant, if you remember last year at the end of the year, I was told that there was this grant, Healthy Communities grant, and we got, was it 40,000? Yeah, it was about $40,000 last year, and we had to spend it real quick, and that's when we came up with the summer school program. Today, we got notified that we got 48,000, so they increased it. So, I'll be working with Curriculum Council to look at summer school options. And, we were talking about math, we were talking about reading, we were talking about a lot of things, and I reminded them that we don't have all the money in the world. But we're gonna come up with a program for this summer as well, based from that Healthy Communities grant, which will allow us again to integrate the library so everybody can continue to get their library cards.
And you're gonna require some type of attendance, cause you left people off when you thought others were going to come. or-
Right. So, we're gonna look at that system and improve that system. But based on this data, that graph didn't come in real well. But the high school freshmen, the eighth graders, from the MAP scores, what we saw was the same thing that we saw in eighth grade. I'm sorry that didn't transpose off very well. As you get older, it seems the older the kids is, with the data that we had over the summer, the older the kid, the less summer school seemed to help with the regression of the lower kids. However, I wouldn't wanna publish this data, given this class sizes and all those other things, so. Questions regarding our reading benchmark? I think I'll do the mid-year benchmark with math probably, and give you some information about that.
The curriculum counselor, are they looking at what they need in terms of curriculum based on this, or?
Yes. That's one of the things that we're, starting to dig more into is where
just
are our
like
areas
2
of.
years of data?
Yeah.
Data, okay.
Yeah. With the understanding that it is only 2 years of data, so.
And
Any
you'll
question?
email the data for math and all of the data that shows, so we can see how we compare to other districts, and
Yes.
will you also have that data? I had asked for the,
You
the
had asked for
direct-
more
I-
of the, yes.
the other, so I could look at it a little bit deeper.
Yes.
I can't think of the name of the report I'm asking about, the direct,
Direct certified.
certified, yeah.
Do you have like a schedule of when you think we'll get, curriculum requests and for materials? So it's not like at the very end? so they
No,
have
it'll
time
probably be in
to-
January or February, but by the time they're ready to start doing their ELA stuff, because they're still exploring some things. I will tell you, speaking of the report card, the Illinois school report cards will go live on October 31st, okay? I will share with you our preview, our report card preview goes live tomorrow. However, as I was on a webinar yesterday with our state board of education, the data, they're having data issues right now with our report cards. So if I shared them to you right now, there'd be some confusion. As I told you before, we have 3 schools, the General, Carruthers, and the middle school, that were deemed underperforming, and we're getting some extra title money to work on the ESSA process and the planning. If I go into the report card right now and I look at it, it's got General John A. Logan as commendable, Carruthers is commendable, middle school is underperforming, and the high school is commendable. There's 4 levels: exemplary, commendable, underperforming, and then there's the lowest performing. To be underperforming, basically what it says is you've got a subgroup of 20 kids or more, be it special ed, be it an ethnicity, be it something, but there's 20 kids or more, and they are performing at a level at or lower than the 5% of the lowest performing schools. So there's the all category of these lowest performing schools in the state of Illinois, and the lowest 5% of the schools in Illinois, if you've got a subgroup of 20 kids or more that are performing at that level, then you are considered underperforming. And so right now, we've only got the middle school the report card is underperforming, but we've already been earmarked by the state for 3 schools that we've gotten money for. And so if it ends up being true that only the middle school's underperforming, I would assume that grant's going to change, and we're gonna have to amend the grant, because I don't think they're gonna continue to
That
give us that money.
includes, the 20 can include IEPs,
Yeah.
hence why some schools don't accept IEPs.
Just private schools don't.
Yeah, all schools accept private IEPs, but what you're asking is,
Well, some
when
schools
kids
don't
move
accept
to other districts, sometimes the school district, when they do the intake, will drop the IEP.
But I dug into the data a little bit deeper, and that's not necessarily the case.
Any other questions on this?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Liddy. Third item under new business is the approval of the 2017-2018 audit report, which is enclosure number 3. Anything just quickly that you have on highlights that you would like to?
I am just gonna do highlights, absolutely. So our auditors were here, basically field work one day. The report that we got, there were no errors found during the audit, and the report that I gave you for fund balances at the end of June is the exact same numbers that are in our audit for fund balances, so they didn't give me any journal entries to make or any corrections. It is as are all audits that are done under the financial statements prepared under the State Board of Education guidelines, that we have an adverse opinion that just basically says, instead of generally accepted accounting principles, we're following what the State Board tells us to do. So you'll see this in any school district audit.
But you received a clean opinion based on those standards.
Correct. Just some of the highlights, and this is in the actual AFR towards the end of the audit on page 4. The category under the financial profile summary is we're in the review category. It goes highest recognition review. Now I've forgotten, because we've been in those lowest 2 categories. It's just been many years since we've done that.
Financial
Watch and
Warning.
warning and watch. So we're we're still in pretty good shape as far as we go on the financial profile. Kind of already talked about our fund balances. No changes there, so no big surprises. Page 8 of our annual financial report, $3.4 million in our education fund. So that includes the new money from the state board that we got at the end of the year that we hadn't spent. And so that is something that we've spent hiring new teachers and staff raises this year. A lot of that will go towards that. But just as far as findings go, at the end of the audit, we've had 2 of the same findings, page 51, 52, year after year, and that just goes with segregation of duties, not having a large enough staff to have the separation that our auditors would like us to have. The other is also a finding that all districts have, unless they have enormous staff, in that we're not writing our own doing our own financial report, the whole audit, and then handing it to them and then saying, okay, let's give you the opinion on that. So that, and the final audit being, we forgot to file the data collection form that goes to the feds. That has since then been filed. It's an online thing we do. So I'm waiting for that to go live so I can file this one so we don't forget to do it this year. So that has been taken care of though for this year. So can I answer? I know that was just a really fast, a lot of pages, the financial statements, the notes of the financial statements on benefits and retirement just gets longer and longer each year. So any questions
from the board? Thank you for being brief. I will then entertain a motion to approve the audit report. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, the Jackson County Enterprise Zone, which is enclosure number 4.
Yeah, the Greater Egyptian Regional Planning and Development Commission's requesting taxing bodies to approve a new enterprise zone. We've always approved these in the past. Basically, the enterprise zone will allow more economic development is the reasons we've approved them in the past. If you look at the map, you'll see that it's the same area. They've added on the trailer park by where the Apple Dome used to be. 14th Street's had some additions with the nursing home and the One Hot Cookie area, and 7th Street over there by Boss Trucking is that other location.
Should they just expand the One Hot Cookie, because we already approved that?
Well, that was the city, and so this is more of a county.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
just as an aside, our response was due to them. It says here September 30th.
Right, but they didn't. We didn't get the letter originally, and so they sent it again, and so they'll be fine with response as it is. We didn't get it until, Mr. Lovell sent out a email to all of the superintendents asking us what to do about this, and the majority of us said, I don't know what you're talking about, what do you, and so we ended up having to contact them and get the information, so.
But isn't it also new, those that have 100 jobs or more, if those would move in, it's 9 years?
Yeah, it would be an extension for those that would be doing larger employments.
So I guess as a taxing body and we rely on the tax revenue, why would we, I'm just curious, why would we support? I get why there are TIFs, but I mean, why are we in support of that? We need that revenue.
Because with it comes upgrades to the area that then bring more people here to then try and make Murphysboro more attractive, which increases our EAVs. So the areas that they're doing right now.
This is all out of the airport, right? Is that what this is?
Yeah, that's the Jackson. Yeah, that's.
So this is all happening anyway, whether or not they get a TIF. It's my understanding. I mean, they're doing construction now. This is already happening.
I don't know.
What is,
Right now what they're doing is a, more of a,
getting it ready?
yeah, I can't write.
Well, getting it ready.
Thing.
No,
They're getting it ready.
They're doing infrastructure.
Water, electric, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know they have builders lined up yet for that.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's a good question. It's a fair question, and it's basically what, you know, taxing bodies, they go either way on. You know, and so the recommendation from the administration is just to continue with what we've done in the past, which I know drives Mr. Green crazy when we say things of that nature. However, you need to vote
I mean, it's
accordingly.
more of you're getting economic development in your county, so we as a school board supporting our county and city, when we ask for, you know,
Right.
support for sales tax referendums and all that, they except Carbondale, but.
But
you
we
know,
wouldn't need
Murphysboro-
sales tax referendums if we had everybody paying property tax.
Yeah, I mean,
Is the flip side to that.
Do we have any
You can
thoughts
argue
on,
both sides.
Yeah, I'm just.
yeah,
I know.
any thoughts on what we currently, quote, contribute because of TIFs now? I mean, do we have a number at all from the courthouse? I've never
That's
asked.
what I was just looking at my, extension on the,
Because I think the incremental change is from 50% to 100% for those last tail years if
Yeah.
the employer brings 100 employees. You know, it's, I mean,
this report doesn't really
Kara's got a great concern.
go into deep dive. Enterprise zone value abated, 1.5 million. Enterprise zone tax abated, $70,897. And that's our most recent, our 2017, tax extension.
So that doesn't include like the new Egyptian electric building then, huh? Probably. And some of the newer.
May not.
I didn't see that on
From
the map.
yeah.
And this is 7th Street, 6th Street. There's trucks. This is 14th Street, this is 20th Street.
So all the school boards in Jackson County have to vote on this?
Every taxing body in Jackson County.
It's voting on it, yeah.
So what are the other districts doing?
Carbondale is recommending the passing of it. Trico was kind of on the fence. A lot of them are recommending it. I don't know what their final votes are. So,
So in I'm unable to see colors, so I appreciate the color. Is it orange?
yeah,
That is what we're,
that would be the new places.
okay,
And the blue would be the places that we are continuing.
so the brown and the gray as I see it.
Okay. Is brown the orange or
I
brown?
love when
the
people
blue?
do pie charts on
Okay.
fuchsia and light blue and purple, and yeah, it's great. So circle.
Any other questions from the board? All right, then would entertain a motion to approve the Jackson County Enterprise Zone. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Item number 5 is the resolution to establish preliminary tax levy.
I'm handing out, just a, kind of a spreadsheet that we looked at last year on property tax history when we were looking at, and this is just a, same conversation we had last year. Do we wanna have a tax levy hearing? Do we not want to? Historically, we have always had that. This shows at the very bottom, 2017, what our EAV is, 159 million. As you can see, our EAV has not been growing dramatically the last few years. 6% is the number that we chose last year, and that is the truth and taxation hearing. It was over 5%. Held a truth and taxation hearing. We actually only received 3.17% increase when you look at what we extended last year, extended/received, compared to 2017. So 3.17%. Didn't get anywhere close to that 6. And our new property, 1.6 million. Carrie, you said something about Egyptian Electric, that new Egyptian Electric building, but it should already be on there, cause they were open in 17.
Yeah, but they would get assessed in 18, paid in 19.
They didn't get assessed in the 18.
No, you don't get assessed until the following year. I mean, if it's like a house.
Right. Or several years sometimes if they don't know you're, if they don't find you. Okay. That's just, I just happened to think of that. I just remember. So that's kind of the conversation. The 4.9, do we want to look at, and I have, and this is the time where we need to set a resolution to establish our preliminary. Are we interested in last year's tax hearing, we didn't have a lot of people that came. The year before, when our number was 11.46, we had a full house. And, our.
That's less money.
And our 2.31, the increase the year before 1.95, and this year we were, and we're not expected to see, the CPI is 2.1% for 2 years in a row. Anticipated, we still have a few months left to be somewhere between 2.2 to 2.3%.
So if Egyptian is not gonna be on there until this year, they've got a TIF, but we have to levy it this year to get that money in whenever, 10,
No, I
15
mean, it
years,
wouldn't
whenever
be-
their TIF is up, or we can levy it then?
We levy it then because it won't be included in the
Okay.
property when it's under a TIF.
Okay.
It won't go in our tax rolls until then. And I mean, truly, in the past, we don't have a lot that goes into the TIF districts because there's just not been a lot going on. When Walmart came into play in, was it 2008? They went on the rolls immediately. We had a side bet on that. They're not gonna go on the rolls. Yeah, they did. They came on, first year. So that's kind of the conversation. Are we looking,
Jan and I talked, and we would recommend the 4.9 and not have to do the hearing, because we're not gonna leave any money on the table. We could do over the 5 and do the hearing like we've done in the past, but it's gonna be like the past years. It just
Looks like you're raising taxes
Yeah.
when you're not even close to getting.
Well,
that
and if I
money.
remember right, last year it was the first week of November, we got the updated EAVs. We calculated, I was just looking, 3.5 is what I calculated at the highest we could possibly get to. So, do we have to do that now, or can we wait until the EAV comes out? Because that's gonna, I mean, we know there's not gonna be a jump in that.
Well, you gotta set your tax, you gotta have time to set your tax levy hearing.
Has to be so many
You gotta have
days.
so many days,
Yeah.
so we can't wait till November, cause we have to have tax levy hearing in November.
But can we change our amount, or we have to approve the amount that we're gonna have at the meeting?
we established a preliminary. I don't really know. I don't think that's ever come up that we've ever changed it once we set the preliminary. I think we had this conversation last year.
Yeah,
Can
and that's
we
what I'm saying,
change
so
it?
like, obviously, when Walmart was built, you knew Walmart was built.
Yeah,
You knew there was going to be a drastic increase.
right.
We know there's not gonna be a drastic
Right.
increase because nothing's been built.
Mhm.
So saying today 4, but for some reason something came off the tax book and got put back on that we didn't know about, and, 4 won't cover it. Is there, can you change that?
Yeah, in my mind, you wouldn't go anything lower than 4.9. I
Right.
mean, doing 4.9
You
is
don't have
what,
to have a hearing.
Right, no, I'm saying if it went to 8.6 like it was.
oh, yeah, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Which again, it's not gonna happen, I'm just curious in the process of it.
Between now and.
Yeah.
And then.
Well, there's no way you can go back and change it once you've said it.
Right.
No, before the hearings, like last time we we placed the hearing a month ahead and we said we're gonna do 6, and then we got EAV, and I said, based off EAV, there's no way it can be over 3.5. Why can't we do it 3.5? And at that point we said, well, we
'Cause
already talked about it.
Well, you
But
have
Shan's
rules
point is,
where
why
you
can't it
publish
change if we know it's not gonna be, and obviously.
'Cause we're not setting the hearing,
right,
so like-
it got to 3.1.
So if we say we agree on 4.9, we don't need a hearing. But if, between now and then, if something were to have happened,
I got you.
can at that point we say, hey, we said we're gonna do a hearing, we need to do a hearing? See what I'm saying?
I got you.
Which
No,
again,
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen, I'm just saying.
right.
In a year
And-
that-
and I don't believe so. I believe this is our opportunity to set a hearing if we think we're gonna need a hearing.
Cause in there, what's the time frame if we would want to up it? You gotta have so many days.
We would have to, establish a new preliminary levy. I mean,
Has
we,
to be like 30 days, or what is the
uh,
time frame?
20 days. It's not the
Because
same.
you'd have to give, because we have to publish the notice of this is what we're gonna set it at, and this is, because of this, we're gonna have a hearing, so that people can come and talk about it, so.
I know, but what's the timeline that you have to publish, or let the county know? Like, I'm assuming that starts
So you're thinking we could have a special meeting where we could,
hypothetically,
right,
and we
So
don't
in
spend
other
any more
words,
time.
when's the drop dead date as far as the board having a levy hearing and approving the levy? Is it November 30th or is it December?
December, it has to be, it's
November
December.
30th.
And we moved, the process back. We did do the November in December, and we moved it back with the county facility sales tax and, looking at abatement. We moved that back, so we're doing October and November and having our hearing or not having our hearing
Do
in
you-
November. And we've historically,
Could we have the levy hearing in December?
we could.
Well, then
That
Jamie's
gives us the
right.
opportunity. And that also gives us the opportunity to find out what other taxing bodies are doing as well within the county.
what I'm hearing you say then is we're going to table this.
We can't table it, can we?
Well, if we table it to November, that way then we can
Sure.
have the hearing in December.
Right.
Oh, so you can't have the hearing in December. I thought you said you had to have the hearing by
No.
November 30th.
No,
Ah, gotcha.
no.
Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah.
back to your thought.
Yeah.
We're good.
You're sure on that?
I just think timing wise moving
Yeah, I
forward
mean,
in
we've
the years
always-
to come,
we've-
if you,
We just changed the process in the last year or 2 years. Historically, we did November. At the November board meeting, we established the preliminary tax levy, and then we had our hearing.
So given that, we
In
could table
December.
this until November
which is
when we
exactly
have
what I
the
said.
EAV.
I said if we know EAV comes out in November, why do we set ourselves up to not have that information before we make a ruling? We said,
Right.
because we always did it that way. That's
Well,
like-
we haven't always done it that way. We did it later. We just did
Just once.
Trying to avoid probably
Right.
holidays and a light December meeting and
Well, and that's part of the December, is it's right before Christmas,
Then
and when
you're
you have that
cutting it, you
tax
gotta have
levy
it in
hearing, typically
December.
people don't come, because
It's
they're
the 19th.
busy with everything else.
So we're gonna table this till November.
Makes sense.
Okay. Then that takes care of items 5 and 6. Item number 7 is the boardroom sound system.
And that is another reason why Mr. Carrington's sitting in the room. We've gone out and we're.
One question. Can you in the back row hear us?
Yeah, unless those things come on, and we usually just unplug them if we do, and then plug them back in before we leave. Or if it's really crowded.
But
You could also sit up front.
You can also sit up front.
Who said that?
You can also
She
sit
said
in
you
front.
can also.
Oh,
sit-
yeah.
That's right, sit in the front row.
Well, yes, it's packed.
Come on.
I don't have any work with my laptop.
My understanding is if you watch us on YouTube, the sound's pretty good as well.
That's not working tonight.
I mean, you're hearing everything that we're saying, right?
Because we cannot always hear when you guys are having a conversation. When you speak directly to us, yes, we can hear. But when you guys are talking amongst yourself and your voice is being directed
Sure.
at each other,
Sure.
then we can't hear.
good to know, though.
There is, I mean, because there's been some questions, why can't we just have a couple of mics and a speaker that throws the sound out there? And the answer to that is, they won't hear us well.
Right. So whenever I had Chris Parton from Midwest Sound, Midwest Music come over, he looked at the space, he's done other boardrooms, he quoted a system so everybody would have their own little mic that comes up like you've probably seen in other boardrooms. We would have a portable cart sitting in the middle, we'd have to cable everything up to there, it would go over, and your sound would be amplified only over the crowd. There'd be another microphone where the public would have to come and speak that would then be amplified to you and to the crowd. And yet we still use this room for meetings and trainings, and so the computer sound still has to work. The microphones for conferences and stuff still have to work for that. So I was trying to get a system that would do everything. That's why it's pricey, like $9,000. We do have some portable mics that we can try out and see how that would work out. We used them whenever the board moved to the gymnasium for some big meetings. It didn't work great, but it worked. I think it's too expensive, but that was the price point that I got in the estimates. So if it'd be okay with the board, I'll try. We'll try something different.
Let's try something.
But it may not be great.
So that seems to pick, well, it seems like when you're watching YouTube videos, that seems to pick up.
Those pick up just fine.
Okay, can that not be used in any other way?
Whenever I tie that into the overhead speakers over here, those
Can you
are
put a
so
Bluetooth speaker back there at the back?
those are so sensitive that it feeds back just as soon as you give any volume there, because they're very sensitive mics, which makes them pick up very good for recordings and for YouTube. Not good for the crowd to hear, to actually use it in a speaker environment. Hence the directional mics for every individual. And that was like $4,000 just for the microphones.
Is that live?
Yeah.
Typically, yes.
Like-
Not today.
There's no delay.
Oh, I don't know about that.
The delay?
Is there a
2 seconds or so.
So could they stream it in
That's what
another
that-
room if it was a big crowd?
Well, I'm saying like if somebody couldn't hear, they could put headphones in with their phone.
Yeah, there would be a delay, but they could, except for tonight, because it's not working and I don't know why. It worked at 4:30 whenever I tested it.
To destroy my theory, that's why it's so funny.
What I'm kind of hearing from the board is let's experiment with something
Okay.
before we spend money.
Sounds good.
Fail cheap.
All right. Anybody disagree with that? Last item for new business is the approval of the Tri-County Property Purchase Agreement.
Yeah, and this is one of those oddities of being a fiscal agent for another entity that has a board. The Tri-County Co-op is in need of more space. They're buying a building. Because typically we would just approve in the consent agenda, but because it is a building, it is a property, and I am the president of the Tri-County Board, and it's not my signature that's needed, it's Mr. Runge's signature that's needed, it's this board. I wanted it not to be part of the consent agenda and be a separate item, but the 9-member board of the Tri-County has approved this purchase, and I am recommending that we approve it as their fiscal agents.
Any
We don't,
questions?
it's on our list, but we don't really own it, so.
Questions?
It's in Carbondale?
It is, it's over in the Cedar Court.
And they're purchasing it for,
Administrative buildings, which is gonna open all the administrative rooms in Shoemaker, so that, the itinerant staff can move into the smaller offices, and it'll open up three classrooms over at Shoemaker.
so then the administrative staff will be in Carbondale
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, which is, I mean, neither here nor there really, but it's, they looked at, building a modular on the Shoemaker area. They looked at a lot of different options, and this was the cheapest of the solutions. I also talked to them about, well, what if we get out of the middle school, wouldn't you love to be in, but the time frame just doesn't work, and so, no other schools really have space for them. We tried to get them to go into the Carbondale 95's administrative offices, but there's,
How big is the building they bought, square footage wise?
I'd have to go back and look at documents, my board packets for that, so. I mean, it's a nice sized building, it's got like 12 little offices in it, and it's got a conference room.
Shawnee Health's in it now.
Yeah, Shawnee Health is in it now, so.
So can that be used for classroom space if they need it? You said it has like 12 offices
It
and
could
they
probably,
need
it's,
3?
the way it was built, there's no load bearing walls inside. There'd need to be some extensive remodeling if they needed it to be classroom space, but it'll be their district offices for some time.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Do they look in Murphysboro?
yeah.
If they just need 3 offices, that's a big purchase.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's 3 classrooms that would be opened up by moving the itinerant people that are sharing those classrooms into the office space that's being opened.
12,
They
15
need
employees.
they need the space.
So then their conference room where the Tri-County Board meets right now,
With
that
the
would be a classroom.
That's gonna be a classroom. There are,
Some other
there are
areas.
like 5 different itinerants for OT and PT shoved into one room, and they're gonna be able to then be in their own little areas. Not full classrooms, but smaller areas. So it is the best choice. And it's just flat out purchase from soft money that they got through a grant this year, so, it's not recurring money that's gonna happen every year. So the recommendation is to approve it as presented.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation from administration for the approval of, and I'll accept an approval for the purchase of Tri-County's new building. So moved. Second?
I'll second.
Mr. Beavers?
Yeah.
Mr. Bain?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorr?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller absent. Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries, and we have a need to go into closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 2 of the Open Meetings Act 5, Illinois compiled statutes 120/2C to review the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee to determine its validity.
And a second?
Second.
Nancy, take your pick.
Mr. Beavers?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorr? Yes. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. James?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller absent. Mr. Bain?
Yes.
Mr. Rungy?
Yes, motion carries. See you, folks.